Alrighty, real quick, this is going to be a short one. I was doing some work on this O2 Explorer the other day, and we threw some brake parts on after a major suspension rebuild on this unit. And I was talking about how I prefer not to use a lubricant right there on those tabs that align the brake pads into their brackets and their shims. And the comment section, of course, was saying, you know, you have to use lube and you should use lubrication. It'll make noise, this, that, and the other. And I'd like to voice my opinion contrary to using the lubrication on brake parts. And I would like to ask the audience to comment on what you feel about this position. So here's my stance on it. Number one, this is a geographical thing. Like, get out right off the bat right there. We're not in a rust belt state. I'm down in sunny Florida where it's hot and we have minimal rust. Unless you're on the Atlantic coast and you bring your truck onto the beach to go fishing or camping or whatever, then you have saltwater exposure on the regular, in which case I would change my position. However, over here on the Gulf Coast, we do not have permission to drive our vehicles into the ocean, so we don't. Based on that, the majority of the vehicles I see are pretty rust-free. I mean, you see some surface rust on a thing or two, but it's not a real huge thing. So I routinely do not install grease and lubricant right inside of here, and I do that for a couple reasons, one of which I just named. The other reason is there's really no reason to put lube there, because the coating on the shim serves as a lubricant, so to speak, in order to prevent any kind of binding. Additionally, you usually get binding here because of a condition called rust jacking. What happens when things rust is it expands ever so slightly, and then it closes up tolerances, and then once those tolerances are chemically closed up, then the parts are interference fit and they don't come apart. So what'll happen is this bracket here will get rust jacking, which will put pressure on the ear right there for the brake pad, and then jam the brake pad into the bracket. The other reason people say to use lubricant on their pads is to prevent the pad from vibrating against the caliper, causing a squealing noise. Now, if you look on this one, you see that honeycomb looking like plate or pad or whatever on there? That is designed to do the exact same thing as the grease is allegedly designed to do. So adding grease onto that little pad on these higher quality brake pads is a duplication of efforts and is not really required. Furthermore, here in the South, I have seen where people have loaded up the little ears and the contact points with grease. And then in the August and July summertime months when it's super, super hot, you're riding around in daily traffic, or you're towing a trailer or doing something, and you're putting a boatload of heat into an already hot area. And what I've observed over time is some of that grease, if you're not using the correct exact right grease, like a high temp grease, that grease can actually melt and then run down, and then it can contaminate your brake pad and your rotor surface, effectively reducing your braking capacity and ability. So I elect to avoid those problems and avoid wasting grease and making a mess, and avoid duplicating efforts when it's not really necessary. In my experience, I have found that making those kinds of judgment calls in these situations has not been problematic, and it's not really an issue. So I usually don't do it. Now, if this thing was covered in rust and it was going up to Pennsylvania or something like that, and I knew they were going to go into a salt belt state, then I would reconsider that position based on those circumstances. But I think overall, for my current situation, I find it to be fairly acceptable to not utilize the grease. Additionally, when these things are built from the factory, the manufacturers, in the majority of circumstances, do not apply grease to the braking components, and they usually do not have any issues. So again, based on that, and based on the circumstances, I feel it's not really required to install grease on brake components. Same thing with lug nut studs. I don't feel we should be installing lubricant on lug nut threads because those are dry torque specifications. But that is a topic for another conversation at another point in time. You guys let me know what you think about the position I just indicated. I mean, we've got factory brakes right here, and there is no grease on them, right? No rust jacking, and these pads and components are not binding together. So I feel that my position is accurate for the circumstances at hand. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do not forget to engage that like and subscribe button while you're down there. And most importantly, if you want to see the video that I'm referencing and talking about, I will leave a link to the video on this Ford Explorer down inside of this video's description and in the pinned comment. And just for fun, since we have this big ginormous truck over here, I'll leave another link to a previous video on this truck also below the link for this truck right here. So hopefully I'll see you guys in the comment section on one of those other videos. Until then, thanks for watching this short video. See you guys next time. Have a great day. End of transmission.